At the beginning of the film recap, a deserted desert is shown. No one could be seen far away. In that deserted place there is a couch where a beautiful girl is sleeping. It was a strange sight. Then a boy is seen moving towards that couch. He is suffering from a headache because he almost came next to that girl. And things get blurry, and the boy also encounters many strange things, like the echo of demonic laughter, and a great and ancient house of demons comes into view. Otherwise, he also witnesses strange sights. Suddenly he wakes up. It is known here that his witnesses were not reality, but a mere dream. The boy's name is Thomas, who was a painter. Thomas had been suffering from these nightmares for the past many years. Thomas saw a psychologist after becoming irritated by such dreams. He is also seeing a psychologist now. The psychologist reveals to Thomas that you suffer from a sleep disorder. Thomas tells the psychologist that it was associated with the devil in ancient times. Man suffers this when he is possessed by the devil, or some demon took a place on his body. The psychologist tells him, these are just your imaginations, nothing else. Any unfulfilled wish can be associated with the girl. This is the cause, you face it. Thomas leaves before he hears another word about her. Suddenly, Thomas observes something in the bushes while painting sitting still. Before he can think about it, he gets a call from the real estate agency. He was told that his uncle owned the property before he died. When Thomas goes there, the real estate agent hands him some papers for the place. The place is called Kaiser Garden. He also gives her a letter his uncle wrote before his death. Thomas was shocked to see this because he hadn't even met his uncle. He hadn't even heard of him. Opening the envelope, he finds photographs of the Kaiser's garden. And that Kaiser garden looked like the demon house he dreamed of. And now he wanted to see the property. Thomas leaves from there. She comes to his house. He reads his uncle's letter and comes to the house. In that letter was a written statement, I regret never having met you. And my mother and grandmother are the reason we never met. But maybe they were right, because our family has been connected with the Kaiser's garden for many centuries. Unfortunately, Kaiser garden males are cursed. The letter does not reveal the type of curse. There are some rules that you will be required to follow. Being a flesh and blood emperor, you can open any door with your blood. There is also a warning statement that there is a forbidden place for you, and it's a basement. You'll have to trust me, and that place has been banned for your goodness. Thomas moves to Kaiser Garden. Without the keys, he enters and breaks down the door. The house looked ghostly and ancient too. There were skulls and statues everywhere, which had a gruesome effect. As he explores the house, he feels as if someone is watching him. Thomas turns, and as he walks into the basement, he hears the sound of a door closing, and he feels someone's presence. It disappears at first glance. Thomas goes upstairs and meets a girl named Linda, and she was one of the agents of that real estate agency. He asks Thomas about his uncle's letter. Thomas felt embarrassed to hear her, and so he leaves, apologizing to Thomas. While sleeping, Thomas dreams again. He dreams that he woke up that princess and walked beside her. Thomas says to the princess, it can't be a dream, because it looks like reality. The princess says, my name is Rose, but I'm also called Sleeping Beauty. You realize it as a reality because we have come closer to each other in the physical world. That's why you woke me up from my dream. He says, I am waiting for you to approach me in the physical world. He then proceeds to Thomas, but she retreats in fear. Thomas is stunned as he turns back to see. She keeps begging Thomas, don't leave me here. Then Thomas wakes up. Then he suffers from sleep disorders again. A demon comes to him in a blanket as Thomas tries to move. Thomas wakes up as the demon is about to kill him. It means it was Thomas's nightmare too. Thomas' house bell rings. When he goes for an inspection, there is a home appraiser. He came there to ask about the maintenance of the house. When Thomas questions the appraiser about this house, then he says, this is a mysterious house. Many people come and go here. The police searched this house many times but found nothing. Thomas rediscovers the house as the man leaves. Thomas discovers an old door in the basement. Quite a lot tries to unlock this door, but to no avail. To further explore Kaiser Garden, Thomas visits the location's recording office. When checking the papers, he finds a sheet with incomprehensible statements. Thomas tries to understand any written statement on this sheet. Suddenly, he feels trouble in his stomach and suffers an attack. Thomas shakes in confusion, and he begins to catch the same relics of his dream. At first glance, Thomas is getting back to normal. Thomas is with Linda. It says, the written statements on this sheet match your handwriting. Kindly inform me about this house if you know. Then Linda says, my brother still hasn't come back and disappeared. Who went to that house? And more than 50 people visited the Kaiser Garden, but did not return, survived on their own. There's not even a trace. Where did they go? Thomas says to Linda, I need your help. They both keep talking about Thomas having another seizure. Linda takes Thomas to the doctor and the doctor says he suffered a panic attack. While dreaming, Thomas meets Princess Rose again. Rose says, "You're the person I'm cursed to be with." And she tells him about the demon that cursed Rose. He tells Thomas, "We will never be able to meet in the physical world until this curse remains." Rose tells him that only your bloodline will wake me up, and unlocks all the doors of that house. He says that the time of your awakening is near. You should wake up now. When he says that, he disappears. Linda says to Thomas, "You had a panic attack. But the annoying thing is that you went back to normal when I took you to that house." Linda tells Thomas as he shows pictures of his brother that, "I came here to fulfill a challenge. Since then, however, there has been no search for him and he is still missing. I came here looking for my friend." He says, "There is a mysterious history of the death of the Kaiser family. The men of the Kaiser family met their end through accidents and suicides. And the most amazing fact is that only reports of deaths of males are heard." He says, "Maybe it has something to do with the supernaturalism that regulates it." Thomas questions that there might be some way to protect himself from this curse. Linda blames Thomas' bloodline. Hearing Linda's words, Thomas remembered his uncle's words regarding the bloodline, and he takes Linda to that ancient door. Linda also tries to unlock that door, but to no avail. And Thomas gets his blood and sticks the needle and lays there. He unlocks the door with his bleeding finger and the door is unlocked. Thomas and Linda walk in. They get an antique diary there, which is locked, and they open it. A written statement in the oldest language is incomprehensible to them. They then notice that a statue has attacked them. They leave the place to save them. Suddenly a car approaches there, and Linda asks Thomas to get into that car immediately. There was someone in the car whom Linda called for help. He is Linda's friend and a paranormal investigator. Linda brings Thomas and Richard to her house and shows many photos of Kaiser's gardens, because she had detailed knowledge of the Kaiser garden. A paranormal investigator says he sees the photos. People usually call these spirits demons or devils. Some people believe in them while others don't. They actually live around us. Richard informs Thomas that you are connected to Kaiser garden, so they can appear before you in any form. Linda tells Richard that Thomas is connected to this property. He will be put to death if he remains separated with this property. Thomas leaves the place, embarrassed by Thomas' words, and he alone starts looking through the antique diary. He remembers something, looks at a photo, and it goes back to Linda and Thomas. He says, "I'm not connected to the property, but to Princess Rose." And he tells them about his nightmares and Princess Rose. It tells of a conversation between Thomas and Rose. She says she first opened her eyes when I entered this property. Thomas says, "We can break the curse and spell in finding and awakening Princess Rose." Richard says, "I do not understand the script and language of this antique journal, and we should visit Linda's house to understand that." And they visit Linda's friends. In fact, Linda's friend knew about the software, who could translate any language into his own language. The building's appraiser comes to Kaiser Gardens to meet with Thomas. He starts looking for him. Then the same demon attacks him and kills him. Thomas wakes up and knows that several parts of the ancient diary have been translated. Linda tells him while reading, "Your uncle wrote it. In it he wrote that I was putting my family in such trouble, where its return is impossible, because I sacrificed the bride to the devil." Thomas asks, "What does this mean?" Then Richard informs him that your uncle had a connection with the devil and the bride. They know more after the next translation of the diary, that Princess Rose was such a princess who was famous for her beauty. After the enchantment, the demon cursed her, and when she was wounded by the needle, she fell into an immortal sleep. Rose is still held captive by the demon. If this is true, then Rose lives. It had been a long time since Thomas had been separated from his possessions, and he has a panic attack. Then Linda and Richard bring him back to Kaiser Garden. When they reached home, they knew that the appraiser for this building was no more. Thomas moves into the basement and takes Richard and Linda. He then unlocks the door with his blood. There is a tunnel with an opening door. A devil attacks them ahead, but the devil disappears when Richard utters the enchanted words. They have now reached their appointed place. They encounter the same demon. Linda and Richard say to Thomas, "We will distract the devil. At that time you can wake up Rose and go there." And they do the same thing. Thomas goes into that room, where Princess Rose was captivated. Thomas comes next to the princess, but she doesn't wake up. Then Thomas remembers his bloodline. Thomas wakes her up with blood pouring from his lips. Now Rose wakes up at this time. Rose satisfies her and restores her senses. He comes to Thomas and closes his eyes, but her eye color changed to black when she opened her eyes. A great secret is revealed here. Princess Rose is no longer a princess, but has turned into a demon. He says as he speaks in his ghostly voice, "You woke me up. but your game is over. Through his finger, he casts a spell on Thomas, and he is knocked over by a wall. Rose tells Thomas, "I've been thinking about you too much." It is an unfortunate fact that the dream girl he fought for, she wasn't a dream girl, but a demon. Rose hears the same demon voice from outside. He kills that demon and pulls out his heart. As he leaves, a wounded Thomas says that Rose is a demon and should be killed. Linda is about to attack Rose, holding a knife. Then Rose holds her neck, and he's about to strangle her. He doesn't kill her, but he leaves. Rose says ironically, "I don't want to give you an early death, because I want to show you everything I do." Then Rose takes a deep breath and casts her eyes on Thomas, and the black flying smoke takes them both away. Then Linda's friend shows up, who read that journal after it was translated into their own language. Here he learns about the curse of the Kaiser family. The blood of the Kaiser's men is actually loved by the demon. It means that the demons can only sip the blood of the Kaiser family. And the recognition of Kaiser members is this. First they have a nightmare and later they hear the voices of demons. Then he suffers from panic attacks. And the same thing happened with Thomas. And the Kaiser men had to be conscious because they were never supposed to associate with any demon. It is also written in that diary. The demon will use this curse to bring about doomsday. That means when this world will be removed. Then it is revealed that Rose comes to a mysterious place and takes Thomas, which is far from the world. Rose utters some magical words, using her power and Thomas' blood. He says, "All the demons will wake up soon. With the coming of Judgment Day, the whole world will be uprooted." And with this enchantment, the story recap ends.